All right. Welcome, everyone, to the Livingston Parish Council meeting. Today is June the 27th, Thursday, 2024. It is a great day to look out and see so many smiling faces again, and beautiful faces and friends, and it really is. Thank you so much for coming. To get started, as our custom, I've had a few recommendations. First of all, try to get this meeting short by Mr. Brandon. He wants to get home to watch the debate. So if we'll try to run through this so everybody can get home to catch the debate, that would help him and me and a lot of us out. So let's get started. Mr. Taylor has the invocation today. Mr. Taylor?
Actually, I asked if Miss Sandy would do it for us. Thank you.
Heavenly Father, Lord, we are just so glad, and we just announce our dependence on you, dear Lord. Please don't take your hand from us, because we need you in this parish. Lord, we pray for all of our council members, our parish president, Lord, and give them the wisdom and the knowledge. We want to be in your will. If not, then everything we do is in vain, and we promise to give you all the praise. And it's in Jesus' name we pray.
Amen.
Thank you, Miss Sandy.
Mr. Wiley of Bauer, will you lead us in a pledge of allegiance?
Pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you so much. To make sure there's a quorum, Miss Sandy, would you call the roll to make sure we have a quorum here this evening?
Yeah. Mr. Mangus.
Here.
Mr. Watts.
Yes.
Mr. Goff.
Here.
Mr. Shavers.
Here.
Mr. Coates.
Here.
Mr. Taylor.
Here.
Mr. Artie.
Here.
Mr. Wascom.
Here.
Ms. Sandifer.
All right, real quick, a reminder, just check your cell phones so there's no major interruptions. Also, just an announcement, if there is anyone wants to speak on any specific item, please just raise your hand and we'll call on you. Try to keep your comments to 3 minutes or less, and try not to repeat if someone else has already said the same thing. Under presentations, we actually have a couple, but I have a letter that I was asked to read to get started. This is from probably one of the greatest sheriffs in Louisiana, Mr. Jason Ard, sent me this letter and asked me to read this to the council. I'd like to apologize to the council again for not being able to attend the last meeting. Also, I want to thank the council for being willing to seek out and listen to all facts before voting on the proposed occupational ordinance. And once again, I want to assure the council and the parish administration that myself and my staff are always here to help. And he asked me to read that, and I told him I would be glad to do that. So under presentations, the next thing is Miss Sydney Taylor. I understand that we have another Miss Louisiana from Livingston Parish. Is that correct? And I'm going to turn this over to Mr. Lonnie Watts.
Folks, this is an honor. I'm telling you. Hey, right here in Livingston Parish, we've got Miss Louisiana.
This year and last year, 2 years ago, Miss Katie Scannell, I believe, lived in my district. So what an honor. We've got some pretty girls in this parish.
Oh, my goodness, yeah. District 1, I'll tell you, especially, you know. Hey, a little bit about Sydney. Sydney's 23 years old from Livingston, Louisiana. She is the proud daughter of Billy and Courtney Taylor. She graduates from LSU in 2023 with a bachelor's degree in accounting and plans to attend law school to eventually become a corporate attorney. Sydney grew up as an athlete, and now a volunteer coach would let her to create a platform for her Miss Louisiana. It's called Play with a Purpose. Using her platform, she collects sports equipment donations to give back to young athletes in need so they can achieve their goals. Sydney was recently crowned Miss Louisiana USA and will be competing in Miss Louisiana Miss USA. She will be competing at the Miss USA competition on August the 4th in Hollywood. Sydney is ecstatic to have this opportunity to represent her home state and parish. Thank you, Sydney. I know you'll do us proud.
If you don't mind, let's go down and take a photo. We want to come down and take a photo of this, Sydney, if that's all right.
you.
Cindy, on behalf of us, we'd like to present you with this plaque
Oh, thank you so
and
much.
this proclamation here, certificate of recognition.
Thank y'all so much for having me. I'm really proud to represent Livingston Parish. I've lived here my whole life, and so really excited to represent on the Miss USA stage in just 1 month.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank y'all so much. Lonnie, good job, buddy. Great job.
The parish president had a lot to do with it, too. I
Really?
apologize for not
Randy
mentioning
Lett
it. Yes,
did
he
that, huh?
Mr. Randy had a lot to do with it. Thank you so
Okay,
much.
well. Item 8, Livingston Parish Economic Development Council, Mr. David Bennett. This is a resolution in support of Weyerhaeuser in our company to amend the Exhibit A's of the original ITEP contracts by modifying the retained job payroll to reflect 125 jobs versus, I think it was 132 or something. And this is for a $6.893 million annual payroll. You want to give us a quick recap so we could get that resolution passed?
Sure, and I feel cursed. I had to follow the FFA's recognition of the vice president of a young man at the school board meeting. Now I get to follow Miss Louisiana, so I apologize. But, again, I'm David Bennett, president of the Livingston Economic Development Council. I've met a number of you all, but I know a lot of you are new, and I'm trying to reach out and get around to meeting everybody, so hopefully expect some emails again from me soon to set up a one-on-one meeting with you all. So I wanted to give a brief overview of this project of Weyerhaeuser, just to give you some context. We started working with Weyerhaeuser back in 2016 to present a compelling argument to expand and to modernize their facility at the Holden location. It took us over 3 years, approaching 4 to 5 years, to secure 2 separate investments that total about $156 million. This is by far the largest industrial investment in the parish. It is only just surpassed number 2, which was Epic Piping at about $45 million, to give you a context of how large this was. Their first project in 2020 was added 4 jobs and was about, I can't remember, 30 million maybe. The next one was a retention of 125 jobs, and this is the project that we're talking about. Because it was a retention project, they had to meet retaining a certain number of jobs, whatever they put on this application, and they have to meet that each year. I'm going to let their consultant explain it a little better because they understand the idiosyncrasies of this. But essentially, what the state, Louisiana Economic Development, defines as a job, this is just correlating to what that is. The company counted head counts and not what was actually eligible under what Louisiana Economic Development defines as a job. So I'm going to turn it over to Robert Wegge to explain a little bit better for that. And I'm here, I'll answer any questions after his presentation as well.
Mr. Robert, you want to give us your name and address, please?
Yes, my name is Robert Wiggy with Summit Credits. My address is 33838 Cypress Bluff Drive in Denham Springs, Louisiana 70706. So basically this was an unavoidable error in the process of filing the application. At the time of the application, we only had a partial year's worth of data, and we used that data to get our best estimate of what the number of qualified jobs were at the site. However, at the end of the year, it was determined that our information was not complete, and that a number of those jobs did not qualify in the state's eyes as being a full-time Louisiana resident qualified job for purposes of this program. And so in essence, what we're asking to do is make a modification to the contract to reduce down the number of jobs that are required at the site to actually match what was at that site in terms of a qualified eligible job in the state, in the eyes of the state.
And that's from 132 to 128 jobs, is
Yes,
that right?
sir.
So
Correct.
and so I'm sorry,
125.
so 132 to 125. Thank you,
Correct.
Mr. Coates. All right. Mr. Coates, Mr. Mangus.
So, as far as the discount, not discount, I guess you would say the program, the state program, they have to have at least 125 jobs, but they can actually have more and can hire more. So, it's not a cap like they. I just want to make sure that, yeah.
Correct. No, sir.
Speaking with Mr. Bennett, that's
This is the minimum requirement, so.
minimum
right.
requirement, but they can go over that.
Correct.
Okay, good.
Fantastic. Is there a motion, or you want another comment?
Yeah, I have a question. What type of jobs are they, or do we know?
I mean, they're a full range of jobs.
Is it dealing with Weyerhaeuser's tree forms? Is that what it's dealing with? Or?
No, sir. These are all jobs at that facility. So it's all jobs that are at the mill, whether you're offloading trucks or loading the mill with lumber. These aren't,
Understood.
Okay.
All right. Is there a motion by the council to adopt the resolution? Mr. Mangus, is there a second by Mr. Ricky Goff? Any more discussion? Oh, you had a comment, Ricky?
No, I had a second.
All right, is there any more to comment? Ms. Sandy, you want to call for the vote?
Mr. Mangus?
Yes.
Mr. Watts? Yes. Mr. Goff?
Yes.
Mr. Shavers?
Yes.
Mr. Coates?
Yes.
Mr. Taylor?
Yes.
Mr. Erdy?
Yes.
Mr. Wascom?
Yes.
Ms. Sandiford?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yeah, everyone vote on the iPad, just in case, who hadn't. We got it. Motion carries unanimous. Item 9 is adopt the minutes. We're going to hold off on the June 13th from the Livingston Parish Council meeting. They've just been really stacked up, so if y'all don't mind, we'll bring those up at the next one. But they do have the minutes ready and sent out for the June 13th Juban Crossing Community Development District. So is there a motion to approve those minutes? Motion by Mr. Mangus, second by Mr. Watts. Any more discussion? All in favor say yes.
Yes.
Motion, any opposed? None being that, motion carried unanimous. Item 10, correct the minutes from the February 24th, 2022 regular meeting of the Livingston Parish Council. I'll try to make this real quick. What it is on this specific, I think it's a fire board, isn't it? Fire board, there's two gentlemen by the name of Populus, Matthew Populus and Terrell Populus. And when we appointed Mr. Terrell Populus at the time, we actually used the name Matthew, but Matthew's on the board and so is Terrell. So what happened was Terrell came on, but one of their appointments has renewed. Pardon?
It was Jason.
Oh, I had Matthew and Terrell there. Okay. So we need a resolution to, I guess, to correct those minutes to the appropriate name. Is a motion by Mr. Ryan? Second by Mr. Mangus. Any more discussion? All in favor say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed? That motion carried unanimous. All right. Parish President's report. Randy, there's just other stuff coming up. We'll pick up then. Grants Department. This is adopt a resolution authorizing the Parish President to execute a cooperative endeavor agreement, otherwise known as a CEA, between the Livingston Parish Council and the Livingston Parish Sewer District to use ARPA funds for the sanitary sewer force main from the Belmont subdivision to Juban Park subdivision and Buddy Ellis Regional Wastewater Treatment. I've spent some time looking at this, and I think it's just a good thing that improves sewer quality across the parish. So if you have any questions, I know we have someone here to answer any questions, but if there's a motion or you have questions, Ms. Sandiford has a question. Go ahead.
I just want to know about the ARPA funds, how much, and a breakdown.
For this particular project,
Yes.
it was $3 million was set aside for the project. They need $1.5 million now, and we are trying to find an additional, or the additional 1.5 from other sources, but if not, we will use the ARPA money for it.
So what, can you tell me, if we have 3 million, this is what I'm understanding, if we have 3 million in ARPA and we're only going to use 1.5, but we need more?
Well, actually, they need the $3 million. we're going to try to find a 1.5 from other sources. If we can't, then we'll have to give them that money.
It's a $3 million project. It was proposed in the first budget that y'all have signed. We are having some budget constraints, and they have agreed to only accept $1.5 million at this time.
And then another
hoping that-
1.5 over another year.
Yes, sir.
So that's kind
I
of
see.
what,
Okay.
Mr. Baines.
My question, not to be contentious at all, but from my understanding of that Buddy Ellis Regional Wastewater Treatment Plant, I know they're doing an expansion on it, but as of right now, it's over capacity. So, can someone address that? Because this is not.
This is a huge project, like over $40 million. But Mr. Eddie Idell's here to speak on behalf of these specific items. I mean, these were just some of the things that was pulled out of a whole array of projects that's going on to consolidate the sewer district. So
This will be under the Livingston Parish Sewer
Yes.
District?
Yes.
Because their plan is not at the Buddy Ellis. They're.
Mr. Idell with Alvin Faber and Associates will be able to give you specifics on that.
Ms. Mickey. Ladies and gentlemen of the council, Eddie Idell with Alvin Faber and Associates. So, like Mr. McMorris was saying, what actually happened was the sewer district took $4.5 million of funds that they had dedicated toward $38 million worth of construction projects to use as match to fix the issues for the Springfield projects. What happened was that they saw an opportunity to make an application for Louisiana water sector funds, but it required them to dedicate $4.5 million worth of monies that they had scheduled to go toward 12 other projects. So they did that. They committed that $4.5 million, which, thank God, because it got us $14 million worth of free money to use to fix all the issues at Springfield. And what this CEA is, it's to help make the sewer district whole, not completely whole, because they're using $4.5, and they agreed to only accept $3 million from the parish to offset that $4.5. So of those 12 projects, 2 of them are to increase the capacity at the Buddy Ellis plant, to run that force main from the Buddy Ellis plant all the way down south, actually past Belmont to Hammock Road, upgrades at the Ward 2 lift station, upgrades at the Lockhart plant main station, upgrades at Savannah Trace, 4 Road, 4 odor control projects. There's a ton of stuff that encompasses that $38 million that they took the $4.5 million from. So I've got the details of all that for any of you guys that want to look at it. I'd be happy to sit down with you.
Okay. Mr. Goff, you had a comment?
Yeah, so 2 things. It's kind of 2 projects. The project that they undertake was $38 million.
Yes, sir.
The project in Springfield was how much?
$14 million worth of grant plus another $4.5 of sewer district match money that they had to dedicate to get the $14 million worth of grant.
And just so everybody understands, CEA is a corporate endeavor agreement between 2 governmental entities, which would be in the parish and the sewer district. So also, the little bit of quick backstory on this is the problems and the poor system, et cetera, and the difficulty in Springfield was taken on, and then there was a search went on to try to solve the problem, put some Band-Aids on it, and they applied for this grant, as I can understand listening here tonight, with the hopes to get it, the prayer to get it. And then, oh my goodness, we actually got it. So now we are here trying to make the sewer district whole. And really, we're going to be, as a parish entity, we're paying $4 million over a couple years to get 14 to 15 million. And more importantly, it's not going to be Band-Aids on the system in Springfield. It's going to be fixed correctly.
That's exactly right. When we first, when the parish first gave those 4 systems to the sewer district, there was about $3.5 million is what we estimated it would take to Band-Aid the system just to have a higher probability of it meeting permit. That was not a permanent solution. The permanent solution is a $18 million project. But, you know, when the sewer district accepted it from the parish, there was no corona. There was no water sector funds. So we were able to up the ante by $1 million, bring it from 3.5 to 4.5, and completely fix the Springfield problem. Brand new regional plant. We're going to get those poorly functioning, dilapidated old treatment plants out of those communities, so those people won't be looking at a treatment plant next to their house. So it's a win-win for everybody.
That's because of the $14 million grant from the water sector.
From the water sector program.
Yes, okay, that's what I was thinking.
Oh, I got one other quick question.
Sure, Mr. Cobb.
Would it be, because there's so many pieces to this, and I know this corporate endeavor spells out certain pieces, would it be better for us to include all of those entities in the corporate endeavor in case there's something that pops up?
You certainly could, Ricky, if you wanted to amend it, because I've got the list of all 12 projects. If you wanted to give you the flexibility to apply to any of those 12.
Well, it gives the parish president the flexibility to just take care of business.
We certainly wouldn't have any issues.
Yeah.
All
right.
Right, because if I may, there are some sewer issues, obviously, in our parish, and I've been battling one of the companies that's got that, like Mr. Idell said, with those non-functioning batch plants, and so that might be something to really revisit.
Well, Ricky, if you're going to change that, you want to put that in the form of a motion that
No one else has any questions,
but you want to add those other entities to that?
I would if nobody else has any other questions.
Time to look over it.
No, I just want to add these to where it gives the parish president, because all of these are in the same mix.
Right, you could take that $3 million and apply it to any of those projects, because it's all in the same $38 million bond.
Because if we don't do it that way, and then something comes up and they got to tweak it around, then they're going to have to come right back to the council.
You put that in the form of a motion?
Yes, I do.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Mr. Billy Taylor. Is there any more discussion from the council? None being, Ms. Sandy, you want to call for the vote?
Mr. Mangus?
Yes.
Mr. Watts?
Yes.
Mr. Goff?
Yes.
Mr. Shavers?
Yes.
Mr. Coates?
Yes.
Mr. Taylor?
Yes.
Mr. Artie?
Yes.
Mr. Wascom?
Yes.
Ms. Sandifer? Yes.
Thank you.
Motion carries unanimous.
Good job on sewer district.
Thank you, Eddie. All right, item 13, Livingston Parish Planning and Zoning Commission, WCK Construction. This was, I believe, placed on here from Mr. Alvin Fairburn. This is a waiver for a fence requirement, I mean, in District 6.
My district, yeah.
Yeah, you want to speak on this, or you have someone else to talk about this?
They can come up and speak on it. I spoke with both of them, and from what I understand, and they'll speak to you, the residents on either side of them are fine with it. So
You're good with it?
I am.
Come up, give us your name and address, please.
Good evening, Parish President. My name is Chris Houston, and I live in Point Capee, actually. I work for Mr. Mike, who lives in Carolyn Road in Denham Springs, and he has this business for a long time. So we have an office already, and we bought the property next door from our neighbor, who is the one that signed the fence waiver, and we wanted to build an office next door to where we actually are right now in Walker South.
All right.
So if there's any questions, we had the Planning Commission, a few of the members talked to her actually, and she was fine with it. She didn't want a fence because we just have an office building. There's going to be no traffic there or anything. It's right next to her house.
Did it go through the planning or?
Yes, we did.
It did, DD?
Yes, Mr. Latt. Yeah.
Excuse me, Mr. Latt.
It did go through planning, and it was approved contingent on the waiver for the fence.
Okay, all right.
Yep.
Do we have? I'm sorry.
I have
Ms. Sandifer.
someone. So I, out of concern for waivers, asked for an opinion from one of our attorneys, and he offered an opinion. And it's not so simple to just issue a waiver. It does affect other things hugely, and so I would like so much if you would come and Mr. Steve Irving come and explain the legality of waivers and to us, please.
All right, Steve Irving. I handled planning and zoning things for the parish, for the lawyer. I got this as a request about waivers, but didn't really know what the waiver was exactly about, and did not know that till tonight. And waivers and variances are sometimes used interchangeably, even though they're not precisely. So I went ahead and I actually wrote an opinion that I think's probably been distributed to y'all, discussing both the waivers and the variances and what the status of the laws are in the ordinances in terms of making that actually work. This is an administrative decision-making process, and so ultimately you need three things. You need to have a procedure by which a decision is made. You need to have the criteria that is used to make the decision, and you need to have some kind of way of recording the decision so that the next guy that comes along that has the same problem gets treated the same way. That's equal protection. Those three things are called procedural due process, substantive due process, and equal protection. So, and there is some cleanup work that needs to be done in the waivers and variances process that's in this parish, which I've outlined in the opinion I gave. In looking at this particular one, there is a procedure for this. This is under Chapter 126. There is a procedure for it that is in the code, in the parish code, and the parish code procedure is that it comes before the council as a recommendation from the Planning and Zoning Commission. And so ultimately what the council does is affirm or deny the recommendation from the Planning and Zoning Commission. The one other thing which I think needs some work in Chapter 126 is a better statement of the criteria that's going to be used to decide whether a waiver is granted or not. So that's the result of my general review of this. I'll be happy to answer any questions anybody has. Yes?
Yeah. My question would be, like, if the neighbor wanted the fence, that's a quite different thing, is that you're coming up here and say we don't want to do the fence. And I mean, that really is truly a waiver. We're now going against what we're doing, what our ordinances are. So and I think that would protect us, because if somebody else, neighbors don't want the fence and they're willing to not have it and sign off on it, that's similar to our ordinance that we have on the towers, the setbacks for the cell towers and all.
Certainly part of the criteria that you could have in your ordinance for whether a waiver is going to be granted or not would be whether or not there is objection from any of the surrounding property owners. And that would be a perfectly fine rule to put in as part of the decision-making process. And then the other thing to do, which the Planning and Zoning Commission could actually do, would be to track those decisions so that the next time something comes up, Planning and Zoning could say to you, we're recommending this, you have considered this issue in the past, and this is what you've done, and so we've recommended to do it the same way, or we've recommended to do it differently because something is different. That's the administrative procedure process.
Mr. Latt, did you have something you want to add, or you just?
They do have the letters from the adjacent homeowner of no objection.
All right. She said.
We don't have a recommendation from the Planning Commission.
The Planning Commission recommended approval contingent on the waiver being.
She said, people can't hear if you don't talk in the microphone, Mr. Latt.
Need a mic on the side.
So the Planning Commission approved it contingent on the waiver being issued on the fence.
But they didn't make a recommendation to us.
It's not an ordinance.
No,
it's a resolution, yeah.
Their recommendation is the Livingston Parish Planning Commission to approve the preliminary site plan for WCK construction contingent on the council approving the waiver on the fence. Motion made by Brady Wax and duly seconded by Gerald Burns. And it was unanimous.
So let me say something.
Mr. DeLatt.
I perfectly understand Ms. Aaron's question. We haven't answered the question the way that it needs to be answered is because the ordinance did not give them authority to grant a waiver. The attorney is recommending we change that and give them authority. They would have no problem in giving the authority because they approved it. The issue is that it says precisely in the ordinance that it has to get approval from you if it's a waiver. If you change the ordinance, that's okay. It's going to take 30 days. It's not fair to keep them out for 30 days, particularly when we've been doing the same thing over and over and the neighbor agrees. They all following the procedure that is in the ordinance now. I'm one of the guilty ones. I voted for the current ordinance that we are using. If this is not the ordinance to use, then we need the 30-day process to change that ordinance. So.
Mr. Coates, you had a question?
Yeah, Mr. Irvin.
Yes, sir.
You had said something about the procedure that needs to be in place. Is there currently a procedure in place?
There is a procedure that's in place in the sense that a Chapter 126 waiver comes to the council as a recommendation from the Planning and Zoning Commission, but there's no criteria that's stated in the ordinance by which the Planning and Zoning Commission should consider granting it. And that's, to me, the deficiency in this is the lack of having criteria on which the decision was made. And as Randy said, one of the things that I've discussed with him that I think is a good idea is to take things like this and let them be decided by the Planning and Zoning Commission. There can potentially be an appeal to the council if somebody doesn't like the decision. But if you've got a situation where the neighbors are in agreement, there's no reason that should have to come before the council. The Planning and Zoning Commission, I think, should just be given criteria and authorized to make the decision, and as long as they keep track of it and be sure the next person's treated the same way, I think that's fine.
And that's okay with state law.
Hold on real quick. Mr. Coates still had the floor.
Yes. The next question was, how many neighbors do we have around this facility?
Sir, we actually own the property to the left, and then we bought the property to the right, and then we have the neighbor that signed our waiver, and she's further to the right, so further to the north. So we are the neighbor on the one side, she's the neighbor on the other side. And our building is going on the middle property. So we're the neighbor on the one side, and she's on the other side.
Okay, are there any neighbors beyond those two on the sides of you?
We have neighbors that join our property now, that we have right now, that we use as our building and our area where we work on. And then the back is over 1,000 feet. There are neighbors in the back also, another subdivision, but there is way over 1,000 feet. And the Planning Commission said that's probably no reason to have a fence way back there. But if we have to put a fence back there, that's fine.
Okay, that was my next question, was why are y'all coming to the council asking for a waiver or not to put a fence up?
Because
is there a reason for it?
We bought the property from the name is Caldereros. We bought the property from Mr. and Mr. Calderero. They sold the property with the intentions of us expanding our area we have, putting a nice office building. She doesn't want something that's going to affect her next to her. We're going to have a building here and a driveway for our few little secretaries that work on, and then it's her house and her yard. So she didn't want a 10-foot fence right there or whatever size requirement of fence, but she didn't need it. She said she didn't want it. We've been neighbors to her since '83, and so we've had no issues with her. So that's why she agreed to that.
All right, the only problem that I have with it is, what if she sells her place and someone else moves in?
So her plan is to sell the property because we bought this property from her. It was one piece of land we bought. She split it in half. We bought half of it now. And when her husband retires in about 3 more years, we're going to buy the other half of her property so we can expand even more. So we're the potential owners of that, but I understand your concern to that, yeah.
Yes.
If she did sell, then we could put in there somewhere. If the new neighbors want a fence, then I'm fine. We'll put a fence up. It's no real issue. I'm just trying to be a good neighbor to her. The Caldereros.
Okay. Bankus had a question?
I think I've heard enough. If there's no more discussion, I would like to make the motion.
Okay. I would have a motion to approve the waiver, authorize the waiver. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Lonnie Watts. Ms. Aaron, do you have a question?
I do. This directly affects other properties in other districts, and I guess that's my concern here. And so we've got to, I feel like before we approve, we've got to have something in place to protect the parish Because this could potentially open up a can of worms. Is that correct or no?
One of the things that equal protection requires is that a governmental body like the council treat all of the citizens the same way in the same circumstance. And if you don't treat them the same way, then you have to have a reason for why you're treating them differently. That's the equal protection part of it. That process is the reason that there should be criteria for making this decision, and then a record kept of the decisions that have been made, so that there's an administrative body like the Planning and Zoning Commission that will have records, and they will know, well, in the situation where there is a fence that's required, but the neighbor next door doesn't want the fence, neither of the parties want the fence, or one party's willing to not put it up, that is a situation in which we would consider not a waiver and not requiring the fence. And like I say, the main thing I think with that is that the administrative agency track those decisions so that the next person that comes along gets treated the same way.
So we don't have anything in place to track that right now?
You don't have any criteria in place, which is, I think, the first problem. If you had the criteria in place, then I think the decisions would develop in the Planning and Zoning Commission, or in the Planning Commission process. The decisions would be developed and tracked, because they would know that they've treated the same, how other people have been treated. This is the part of developing an administrative law process. This basic procedure I'm describing is what is used in larger parishes and larger governmental entities to address this same question. And I think it's just a matter of importing into the Livingston Parish Code the same kinds of things that are done in other places that have had to address this.
Do you think that you could draw that up for us? Can you work on that for us?
I knew you were going to ask that, and I will take care of that. And I've been in connection with Mr. Jerome Fortier, too, and he basically agrees this needs to be done, and it was something he was considering as well.
Okay. Thank you so much.
All right, we had a motion by Mr. Mangus, second by Mr. Watts, to approve the variance. And I
would like to provide a amendment to that.
You want to have a substitute motion?
Yes.
Mr. Coates, what's your substitute motion?
Perhaps we could table this until Mr. Irvin has an opportunity to set that criteria, so that when we are doing it, we're doing it following the protocols that he set forth here.
Okay. Is there a second for that motion?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Mr. Ryan Shavers.
I have a question.
Mr. Mangus, discussion on that motion.
Okay, so if it's a variance for them to not put up a fence, a waiver for them not to put up a fence, I'm not trying to obfuscate this, but if we table it, does that mean you have to put up the fence?
Yes, because
you
don't get his variance.
If we're doing a waiver for them not to have to put up a fence, does then the ordinance kick in that you need to have the fence? So do you have to put up a temporary fence during that time?
No.
That would be my only question.
This preliminary site plan was approved contingent on granting of the waiver.
Right.
So basically, he wouldn't get his waiver if Mr. Coates' motion passes. So he couldn't proceed with his project.
Correct.
If that motion passes, until he either puts up a fence or gets that waiver. Ms. Delatte, did you have a comment?
I would like to clarify something. There is a procedure in place and has been for many years. So in order for a waiver on a fence to even be thought of, or you have to have a letter of no objection from the adjacent property owners. So there is a requirement and stipulations that the planning department does require before it is even allowed to move any further. So that is in place, and that is something that has been going on for years and years and years. I just wanted to give y'all that information because...
Thank you. Mr. Delat, you want to add to this?
Mr. Light's right. And the second part that I want to add on there, you still can do what you want to do. Don't get me wrong. You still can do those things. That's why it's called a waiver on our present situation. But you can change it if you want to. It's just 30 days down the road it's going to take at least to get that implemented.
Right.
That's
Okay, let's see. We had a motion. Do we had a motion by Mr. Coates for a second? Ricky, you had a comment. Go ahead. Y'all, this is a fence variance. Just reminding you. Go ahead, Mr. Goff.
Thank you. Mr. Steve, if you would come back to the microphone, please. So as Mr. Latt said, and as you was so diligently explained a while ago as well, we have a procedure in place, and it requires that gathering of information and that the Planning Commission approves it based on the most that they can do, and then that person has to come to this council to get that waiver. And then I believe, and I just want to hear it from you, that we're perfectly within our rights to do what we're doing because that's the precedent that we have set for many, many years. What you are suggesting is that to keep that gentleman and that company from having to come to this council for that variance is that we establish guidelines to give to the Planning and Zoning Commission so they can make that decision then. And this gentleman here can be on his way. But if the Planning and Zoning Commission chooses not to give him that variance, he still has the right to come to this council at that point and ask for the waiver anyway. And that's the procedure you're asking to be put in place.
That's what I was going to be put in place. And the other thing I would add to that is when I put criteria in the ordinance, one of the criteria in the ordinance would be the concurrence of the neighbors in the process. Exactly what the planning department does, it's just not codified in the ordinance that that's what they're going to do. But it is their procedure already. And as I said originally, there is a procedure. You go to the Planning Commission, and it comes here as a recommendation to the Planning Commission. And I wanted to streamline that so that it only comes here if somebody objects to the decision of the Planning Commission.
And I agree 100% with what you are saying. I believe we need to move forward in that way, and I hope we do that. So my question to you as my attorney, as our attorney, as this parish's attorney, are we perfectly within our rights to grant this man his waiver so he can move on with his business, and then you can move on with your business to set up our guidelines so the planning and zoning can do their business?
You are within your rights to grant the waiver. It has come to the council as a recommendation from the Planning and Zoning Commission, which is what your current procedure is. We're going to codify as part of the substances exactly what we've talked about, so there will be criteria.
And WCKW has been...
Mr. Mangus, you got the floor.
1983, you've been a member of Livingston Parish and been a good neighbor, and obviously you get along with your residential neighbor.
Yeah, the owner's lived in the parish many years, and he started this business. He's got bought it from his cousin, and he's continued
Let's
to grow.
go ahead. Other affairs. We've had, I think, pretty good bit of discussion about a fence. So we got Mr. Coates' motion. Now, I just want to clarify, a motion by Mr. Coates, second by Mr. Shavers. This is for the substitute motion to basically table this or defer it until...
We can set up the criteria.
Until set up the criteria, which would basically not give him the variance today. We'll vote on that. If it passes, then he don't get a variance. If it fails, we'll pick up the next motion. So let's call for Mr. Coates' motion. Ms. Sandy.
Mr. Mangus.
No.
Mr. Watts.
Yeah.
Mr. Goff.
No.
Mr. Shavers.
Yes.
Mr. Coates.
Yes.
Mr. Taylor.
No.
Mr. Erdy.
yes.
Mr. Wascom.
No.
Ms. Sandifer.
Yes.
Did that motion carry, Sandy?
5 for no, so it doesn't.
5 noes, so that motion failed.
Correct.
All right.
Original motion.
So let's go back to Ricky Goff's motion to grant the waiver, and that was seconded, I believe, by, was it?
And we're going back to
It was John Mangus's motion, and then
Seconded by Mr. Watts, right?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Did you vote? Did you tap?
Yes, I'm sorry, I got to
Just counted 5 was yes.
I did.
It did fit Ricky's,
Well, I hit the wrong button.
oh, hit the wrong button.
So it
did
should've been
did
5.
Dean's motion fail or pass?
It passed.
It's passed.
Pass.
5 yeas or 5 nays?
5 nays.
5 nays?
No,
So-
That means it failed.
No, it was 5 yays.
Point of order. Can we just revote?
Can you set that up, Caroline, to revote?
Since there's stipulation.
We're going to do it if we can. I mean, just, I tell you what, if you voted no, raise your hand.
If you voted no, that means to not do the substitute one.
1, 2, 3, 4 no's. And if you voted yes, raise your hand. So
But
we
you
got
voted
1,
no.
2, 3, 4, 5. We got 5 yays. So that means Mr. Coates' motion passed and you don't get your waiver.
Well, thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Appreciate it.
All right.
even though you're in compliance.
Let me say something. Mr. Steve said he's working on this, right? So he can come back.
Yes.
Yes.
He's perfectly in compliance right now.
Huh?
He's in compliance right now.
Well, I mean, I think technically you're not supposed to come back to the council.
Well, I
I guess you
thought it was because he was writing the criteria. Correct. For it.
Okay, well,
The criteria is for future.
Once he gets
I don't know.
once the criteria is met,
All right, let's,
Hold on just a second, because I mean,
Okay.
this is
Confusing.
if you want to make a motion to reconsider your vote, we could do that right
Well, I mean,
now.
because the way I understood it, it was until Mr. Steve got his stuff straight, or the criteria.
That's what Dean's motion was, to not give him the variance until Steve does something with our
So
ordinance.
how much time we looking at?
We didn't say?
But he's perfectly within his right to do it.
All right, let's hold on just a second.
Just to deal with this one, I could probably do it in about 2 hours. But I can certainly have it to be advertised by the next council meeting. But what I would do would be to codify the process that planning has internally already, so that they actually have followed with this. I would just codify it so that it's part of your code.
So basically, the planning approved this.
Yes.
They just need us to give a waiver, and we ain't giving a waiver.
The gentleman went through every step that many, many people have went through before and came to this council to get the blessing of the waiver based on the neighbor being okay with it. He has everything in place that he needs, just like all the other people have many, many years. What we're saying is we can make a better wagon. And Mr. Steve's going to do that. So these people don't have to waste more time to come to this council, that the planning and zoning can actually do that ahead of time. For us to deny this man it just doesn't make
Is
any
there a
sense.
way for us to, because of the unique situation that we're in right at this moment?
Ms. Sandifer, you got the floor.
I'm sorry, Mr. Wascom. Is there a way for us to have some sort of grace, legal grace, some sort of situation where he can halt until we can get this through ordinance first, because that's what we do.
He's halted already.
Can I answer that question?
Okay, wait. Look, guys, if there's not a motion to reconsider the vote, we're going to move on, because, I mean, this is going on, so
Somebody on
I'm giving...
Nay side that has to vote to reconsider.
That's right. Somebody who voted no would have...
Somebody who voted no would have to vote to...
Somebody who voted yes would have to...
Yes, in the positive.
Right,
would
and
have
if I don't hear a motion in 2 seconds, I'm going on with that item.
I'll make a motion to
Make
reconsider.
a motion to reconsider.
Yeah.
Can we call for the vote again?
All right, can I say one thing?
Well, let's...
Basically, what Mr. Goff is saying is, if you look at the contrapositive of this, what we're saying is if we have a neighbor and we have a policy in place, which could be absolutely better, Mr. Coates is right, we could make a better policy, Mr. Irving's right, but if they followed everything and planning approved it and the neighbor was okay with it, if that's true, the opposite is also true. Now we could have neighbors that are against it, and we're going to let it happen. So, no, we have to be consistent. That's under equal protection. And
All right, well, we have a motion to reconsider by Mr. Watts, is that correct?
Yes.
And then, was there a second?
yes.
Second, all right, so this go back to Mr. Coates' motion to deny the waiver and reword and to go through the process.
Right. Develop the criteria
So, Ms. Sandy, you want to
for
call?
implementing this.
Can we recall for that vote again?
Mr. Mangus?
So I got to no.
Wait, what is the
Wait,
motion?
if we reconsider.
Wait, no, we're going back to the
We're
original
going
one,
back
right?
to Dean Coates' original motion to deny the waiver and until the process gets fixed out with Mr. Irving.
Mr. Chairman, do we have to take a vote to reconsider? I believe we have to take a
Oh, I'm
vote
sorry.
to reconsider.
Well, is there, okay, we had a motion by Mr. Watts to reconsider this motion, seconded by Mr. Mangus. All right, Ms. Sandy, you want to call for the vote to reconsider?
Mr. Mangus?
So to reconsider.
Yes.
Mr. Watts?
Yes.
Mr. Goff?
Yes.
Mr. Shavers?
No.
Mr. Coates?
No.
Mr. Taylor?
Yes.
Mr. Erdy?
No.
Mr. Wascom?
Yes.
Ms. Sandifer?
No.
All right, so that carried, correct?
Yes.
All right, now you'll have a motion to, now that goes back, if we're going to reconsider, so we'll
Now
go.
we have to do the substitute motion.
Now we'll vote on Mr. Coates' motion to deny the waiver until the process is complete. And you want to call for the vote on that one?
Mr. Mangus?
No.
Mr. Watts?
No.
Mr. Goff?
No.
Mr. Shavers?
Yes.
Mr. Coates?
Yes.
Mr. Taylor?
No.
Mr. Erdy?
Yes.
Mr. Wascom?
Okay, I'm getting confused. That would be a no. Okay, yes, that would be a no. Okay.
Sandifer?
Lord, it's so much. Now let's go back to Mr. Goff's motion to give the man a waiver, and then hopefully we can get this stuff put together. And I believe Mr. Mangus made the motion and Mr. Goff seconded. So let's go to that vote. Would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Mangus?
Yes.
Mr. Watts? Yes. Mr. Goff?
Yes.
Mr. Shavers?
No.
Mr. Coates?
No.
Mr. Taylor?
Yes.
Mr. Erdy?
No.
Mr. Wascom?
Yes.
Ms. Sandifer?
No.
All right, that motion carried. Congratulations, you got your waiver. All right.
Thank you for your
Look, I apologize for the debate, Brandon, but we're not going to get out here by 7. Introduction of ordinance, rules and regulations, Parks and Recreation District Number 3. I believe y'all have a copy of the ordinance before you. It was the ordinance committee heard this Tuesday night. Voted with a favorable recommendation to the parish council. There was one, this is the very final thing right here. Basically what it does is it gives our local parks throughout the parish the ability to enforce policies and regulations where if someone gets out of line and the policeman officer shows up, that he has the right to remove someone from the park legally. And if someone stands up and says, hey, you can't tell me to leave, this is public property, you're not obeying the rules and policies that are set in place by the Park and Recreation and approved by the council, then the police officer can remove them. So a motion by Mr. Mangus, is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Mr. Billy Taylor. Is there any discussion from the audience?
Did you make that change? It's in here?
Yes, it's in here. It's in the blue, yes. Oh, Ms. Sandy, would you read this introduction by title, please?
This will be proposed ordinance 24-18. It's an ordinance to amend Chapter 54, Parks and Recreation, Article 1 in general, Section 54-1, restrictions on use of the parish park, in the Code of Ordinances of Livingston Parish as follows. The public hearing will be at 6 p.m. on July 11th.
All right. No discussion in the audience. Any from the council? Is there a motion to approve? Oh, we had a motion, I think, didn't we?
In a second.
Mr. Mangus made the motion, and Mr. Taylor seconded. Oh, Mr. Coates, you had a question?
Yes. Can we clarify that verbiage?
Sure. All rules, regulations, and policies that are voted on by the Parks and Recreation District board members passed by resolution of the Livingston Parish Council and posted within plain sight must be adhered to by all visitors that are located on the premises of all parks and recreation districts located in Livingston Parish. These rules, regulations, and policies shall be enforced by local law enforcement. It's in the blue section.
I've got it right there. Didn't we say we were doing something to where if they changed the rules, it would have to come back to the council?
Yeah, he put
Well, it has to be approved by the council, so, you know, if
I was just making sure.
yeah, if they do a rule that's not approved by the council, then they legally can't have it. I mean, that's just.
I was just trying to clarify that.
When they want to tweak it,
If they want
tweak
to
it and they
change
come
policy,
back.
they need to get a resolution from the council. And it's not an ordinance, it's a bill resolution in, but backed by an ordinance.
Gotcha.
All right, so we had a motion by Mr. Mangus, seconded by Mr. Taylor. You want to call for the vote, Ms. Sandy?
Mr. Mangus?
Yes.
Mr. Watts?
Yes.
Mr. Goff?
Yes.
Mr. Shavers?
Yes.
Mr. Coates?
Yes.
Mr. Taylor?
Yes.
Mr. Artie?
Yes.
Mr. Wascom?
Yes.
Ms. Sandifer?
Yes.
All right, that motion carried. That's for the introduction. We'll have a public hearing in, 2 weeks, Sandy?
July 11th.
July 11th. We'll have the public hearing and adoption. Let's see. Whew. Item 15, public hearing adoption of LP ordinance number 2414, rescind and reenact Chapter 9, Article 8, ambulances of the Code of Ordinances of Livingston Parish, Louisiana, in its entirety. I believe, Mr. Josh, did you?
I didn't have any comments about this particular ordinance, but I promise if you vote on it, I will never ask for a waiver.
Okay, we need to read by title. Let's read by title first.
Mr. Chairman, I can tell you how it came to be.
Okay, hold on, we're going to read by title, and then...
Okay.
Proposed ordinance 24-14, an ordinance to rescind and reenact Chapter 9, Article 8, ambulances of the Code of Ordinances in and for the Parish of Livingston to amend the article in its entirety.
All right, well, let me have a public hearing first. Is there anyone here to speak for or against this specific ordinance? I hereby declare a public hearing open. If there's none being, I'll close the public hearing. And is there we've already had the introduction, so this will be for the the adoption. Is that a motion to adopt it, or do you want to say something?
Yes, I was just going to say this is what we've been working on in the
Yes,
Quality
that's right.
Assurance Panel, and the changes that were made were minute changes, dealing with one word here, one word there, or something, dealing with the contract negotiations that we had in place. So
Make a motion to adopt?
Make a motion to adopt.
Is there a second by Mr. Taylor?
Second.
Oh. Gotcha. Any more discussion? All in favor say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed? That motion carried unanimous. Item 16, public hearing adoption of LP ordinance.
Can I just say one thing? Thank y'all very much for that. One of the things that Acadian Ambulance takes very seriously is our staffing. We have EMR and EMT classes starting every single month at Acadian Ambulance through our National EMS Academy with a partner of the South Louisiana Community College. If you're listening to this council, we have becomeamedic.com. You can go there. Our next EMT class starts July the 15th. Within a matter of 3 months, you can be an EMT and you can be making $36,000 a year working for Acadian Ambulance. So we encourage you to go to becomeamedic.com. Classes start every single month here in Baton Rouge. Even if you want to become a EMT and help your local volunteer fire departments, we can help you get that certification. So I appreciate y'all. Becomeamedic.com.
Thank you so much. $36,000 a year. I don't make that being up here. And I'm thinking...
You need to make more.
And they get a break in the taxes.
That's right.
And they get a break in their property
homestead.
tax.
That's right. Item 16, did you want to pull that, Ms. Sandifer?
I do want to, I mean, it's a public hearing
Okay.
because it's on the agenda.
Public
so-
hearing, adoption of LP ordinance number 2417, rescind section 4647. Ms. Sandy, you want to read by title?
Proposed ordinance 24-17 is an ordinance to amend the Code of Ordinances in and for the Parish of Livingston by removing Section 46-47, future highway grade corridors, and Section 46-48, safety requirements of property adjacent to state and federal highways located in Chapter 46, motor vehicles and traffic, and whereby creating and enacting Chapter 121, state and federal highways.
All right. We introduced this ordinance at the last council meeting, I believe, and today is set for a public hearing. Is anyone here to speak for or against this specific ordinance? All right.
Sorry, John, we can't hear.
Okay, I'll talk a little louder, Don.
We can hear you.
Oh, okay.
We can't hear Sandy Till in the audience.
Okay, pull your mic down there, Miss Sandy, if you don't mind. Okay, thank you.
Okay, sorry. This is an ordinance to amend the Code of Ordinances in and for the Parish of Livingston by removing Section 46-47, Future Highway Growth Corridors, and Section 46-48, Safety Requirements of Property adjacent to state and federal highways, located in Chapter 46, Motor Vehicles and Traffic, and whereby creating and enacting Chapter 121, State and Federal Highways.
Is this talking about the
setbacks, yes. This is the setback.
What is I can need somebody to explain the actual setbacks.
Okay, so the setbacks as they exist now are just for Florida Boulevard, as they exist today, before anything is passed. 100-foot setbacks, which means 50 feet from the center line, and then you've got, actually the math doesn't jive with the master plan by 1 foot. So you've got 2 side yard setbacks of 20 yards and then 1 front yard setback of 40. So in this, I made it match the master plan to total in 142 feet in totality, with the exception of the front yard setback, because if you're going to have a driveway for a commercial business, if you're going to have parking in the front, you're going to have to go back 20 extra feet. The other part of this is moving, somehow this got moved to motor vehicles and traffic section. I think that's section 46, and I don't know why it got moved there. So it needs to be moved back into the land development area so that the developers can see it when they are looking at it.
Shouldn't this be in the UDC that y'all working on?
That's where I'm trying to move it to in its own section.
So why are we trying to approve it now instead of waiting for the UDC to be ready?
Okay, let me finish explaining, because there's a lot that's happened with this, and I think, let me finish. Okay, so the next part of it is 142-foot setbacks on all state roads. Florida Boulevard is our only federal road right now, with the exception of the interstate, but this excludes the interstate. So the parish roads go into 142-foot setbacks. Now, on all state highways in Livingston Parish and roads. Okay, so what we have done, Mr. Goff made some amendments that I agree with, and his are better. Now, we talked about this a little bit earlier. Maybe you want to explain what you are wanting to amend.
Well, we're still in a public hearing right now, so if you have, I want to hear from anybody that wants to talk for or against this specific ordinance.
My question is, doing the math as it's been presented in the ordinance, I think the point of beginning for any setback should be at the end or the back of the right-of-ways. When you have your property surveyed, even though you've got a right-of-way through here, and it may be 400 foot wide, you've got your road bed, which is 2 12-foot lanes on each side, 24 feet. But the center of that line, as it stated it originally, that right-of-way, that road goes and curves. If you do it from the back of the actual right-of-way, it's a clear point to start with.
Yes.
When you get your property surveyed, it's clear, it's precise, and you'd do a setback X amount of feet from the back of right-of-way. That is clear as it can be, to the point.
Yeah, and we have made that adjustment. I mentioned Ms. Aaron, and that adjustment has made for
Real quick, I want to see if we're going to get to the council, let him a chance to speak. I want to let the audience.
With a half acre of property on a state highway, doing the math that I've been presented with, you cannot even install a mobile home on it. So you've made all the property absolutely worthless in Livingston Parish. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else here to speak for or against this ordinance? Give us your name and address, please.
Hey, I'm Melissa Jones, 327-838 Mangum Chapel Road. I'm in District 190's district. I'm just speaking strictly on behalf of the rural and landowners of the parish. Y'all just passed zoning, which I've talked to Lonnie about this, so I'm already taking a hit as a rural landowner. My acres have to be, so my kids, just say for instance, I have faith Mr. Tom Easterly is going to represent my neighbors, that want to develop their property one day. But when me, who has no money, and I'm saying I've left everything to my kids' inheritance, is my property. So when that happens, just say, God forbid, they want to sell after we're dead and gone. You've already cut them down. I have 3 children. Our land runs rectangular. We have 60 acres of planted pine trees that is still planted pine timber. I have nothing else to leave them. But say most of your land is road frontage, you're going to take away from them. You've already made it where if they get ready to sell this land or they want to do anything, a lot has to be 5 acres. So not only are you infringing on their right, but on the servitude end of it. I know that people think that that's not a big deal. I have pipeline servitudes running all through my property, but it sounds like to me all you're doing is something we can't control, handing over money to the state so they can get something really cheap, and it's still not going to force them to 4-lane highway. It's still not forced them on Jubin Road. If a hospital, other areas, the town of Walker couldn't force anybody to build a 4-lane highway. We can't force the state to do that as well. I think we need to look at stuff locally that we can control. I mean, nothing to get. I think it's a great plan. I think infrastructure is needed. I voted for the zoning against my better judgment and everything else. But our traffic, the impact of the traffic study, y'all need to really look at the scope of that. That really doesn't force them to do anything. I know y'all haven't looked at the whole scope of it. I asked some of y'all, do you really understand it? I didn't understand it until I went to the School of LP, council meetings, the last several years. And it really, there's things that we can I'd like to see passed right now that y'all can control that would help us that, is not being done.
Thank you, Ms. Melissa. Is there anyone else to speak for or against? Give us your name and address, sir. Gus Holden.
Gus Holden, 20386 LA Trace Road. Y'all are literally, there's projects that are in place for young people in rural areas on state highways that have small tracts of land they're planning on building, and with what y'all are doing, they might be holding off or be working on it. Y'all are killing their project. You're killing everything these young people are working for and just taking everything away from them. And y'all are basically just taking land for non-necessary areas out in Springfield, Albany, all these territories. There's a lot of state highways, but they're not going to expand in the next 200 years. I got property that you could build to the back of the DOTD right away. You could build 3 lanes and still dig a ditch and have plenty. That's just on my side. That ain't counting the other side of the road. This is just, and then you're going to extend further into the property. Y'all got to think about that. Think about the young people trying to move
Thank
forward.
you, Mr. Holden. We have another one here. Give us your name and address there, sir.
Good evening. Scott Jones, 25625 Walker South Road, District 6. I saw this morning. It was brought up to me. I've talked to a few councilmen today, called a few others. Have a few concerns. The people here have spoken well. A lot of the same concerns I have. If I have an acre of land that is 120 foot deep on Walker South that I bought 5 years ago and COVID hit, and I didn't get the opportunity because of the uncertainty to develop it, and now you take Walker South has a 80-foot right-of-way currently, you move it to 142 feet, you've taken a large portion of my land away from me, and maybe even the ability for me to develop it. And I've invested my money in it for an investment for my family. I can't sell it because I can't do anything with it, but I got to pay taxes on it till Jesus comes back. We need to think about the unintended consequences. A road like 190, first of all, I want to back up 1 second. I applaud the forward thinking. I've been working on roads with Mr. Gerald for 20 years. We have to do some things to protect our growth and make it available for us for the future. But to blanket the whole parish with one rule is not a smart way to do things. We need to sit down with engineers from the state of Louisiana, some of your big developers. I'll use Blunt's or Mr. Rushing. Mr. Price builds roads all over the state. One of the bigger road contractors in the state. He could give you a lot of information as well as state engineers, as to what you could do and apply in different situations around the parish. 4-H Club Road, Walker South. I grew up on 4-H. I live on Walker South. Other roads like that, Lockhart, we don't need 142 feet necessarily. Or maybe a portion of it does up by the interstate, and then further down, you narrow it. 190, you have situations there that may not need that, or you may need more. But we need to consider all things instead of just a blanket policy. So I'm asking you, and I asked Mr. Ricky earlier, if we could table this, take it back to committee, let's talk about it, let's look at it from several angles that we maybe didn't consider before, so that we can get it right. Okay, let's get it right and not just do something for the sake of doing something. I think we can do the right thing for the parish that will help everyone and protect their property values. Thank you.
All right. With, is there another? All right, come on up and give us your name and address, and let's.
Hi, my name is Lisa Cothran, 32011 Tebow Plaza, Springfield, Louisiana. I want to see if I can get a waiver for a fence. Just joking. Just joking. Just joking.
Just barely. Just barely.
Just joking.
Is that to build
All
one
right,
or
go
not
on.
build one?
Yeah, I'm not trying to. Go ahead. We got to keep moving here. We got a debate to get home and watch. Some of us.
I agree with everything that each person has come up and spoke, but the real meat of the problem that's not being spoken is that this is unconstitutional. It's unconstitutional. When you have, there's certain rights that each one of us have. Our forefathers, they did a lot of work. They wrote us all a love letter. Everyone, if you've never studied your Constitution and you're unsure what it says, I would suggest each one of you read it thoroughly. The Declaration of Independence, the Bill of Rights, because it tells, not only does it tell us, the people, what our rights are, but it also tells you as members of the council of what your rights are. And I see this, I've been to the Capitol, I see this all the way from the top all the way to the bottom. The rights of the people are being violated. Maladministration is what's happening. And that's not a word that's used very often, but they don't want us to know what our rights are. That's why they don't teach the Constitution in the schools anymore. Because the people, in other words, each one of you that are represented here today, let me ask you.
Let's wrap it. Go ahead, if you would.
Where do you get your authority from? I got you. Where do you get your authority from? Where does your authority come from?
Well, we're not here to answer the questions. I mean, right now, just if you would, just make the comment.
Well, so you get your authority, you get your powers. All your powers come from the people, And the property rights is something that you cannot take. You can't make an ordinance for it. You can't make anything for that because it's something that you can't take, because property, liberty, and life is given from our Creator. We said a prayer earlier.
That's
so
right.
I know that that's what we represent here. So those rights are given to us from God.
Thank you.
Not from the council, not from anybody else. And if there is a need that you have to take a portion of property for growth, a amount of money should be paid for that property, and it has to be paid. That's constitutional.
It will.
And my prayer is not to have to go to another level of affidavit and a notice to each one of you. My prayer is that you will study. That's what we're here for. We're here to teach you how to do your job as a councilman for the people. You're here to protect us. So that's our job, and that's what I'm doing it in love and peace. And so I ask that each one of you study that thoroughly and understand
Just one second.
the power.
Okay, I need you to. Thank you for the Constitution lesson. I appreciate that. I really do.
Okay, well, study it.
Okay,
Because you're not operating in it. You're not operating in it.
Okay, ma'am.
Hold on 1 second. Thank you. Is there anyone else here to speak for or against this specific ordinance? All right, let's wrap it up with this one. Okay, there won't be no more after this.
I'm not giving a constitutional lesson.
We got to move on.
It.
I mean, I appreciate what you said.
Jennifer Holden, 20384 LA Trace Road. So I want to ask, what is the side setbacks on the property? I see what there is about the setback from center line back. Oh, did I see something about side setbacks on the side of the property? We have 21 feet in the back. What's the side setbacks of from the property lines?
What are you talking about?
The 21 feet on each side?
That's on Florida Boulevard, the 21 feet for parking.
So that's just Florida Boulevard?
That's only for Florida Boulevard.
So I'm just going to add to that. I mean, okay, that's fine, but I'm with the other one that said about the blanket across. I mean, we have Albany, we have Holden. These are very rural, and I know in the time that I've lived here since the 80s, Holden hadn't really moved. So all those people that own property on state highways, I own investment property on a state highway that's very rural. And I'm literally in the stroke of a pen going to lose value when that's, I mean, yeah, it'll still be mine, but I can't put anything more than a driveway, landscape. That's the way I understand it. It can be taken at any time to put a road there, and if I go to sell it down the road, that's going to be looked at and analyzed, and they're going to be like, it's not really worth that. But I paid fair market value. So my question is as the property owner, where is our compensation for the state and the parish just coming in and saying, we're going to take this much, and this is what's going to be ours? That's all I have to say.
Thank you so much. Let's go ahead and close the public hearing on this specific. Hugh, I know you're here for something else, aren't you? Hugh, I said this was going to be the last one heard, but
I have one other thing to say. I just want the record to reflect that in Livingston Parish, you can spend 25 minutes talking about a fence, and you'll cut somebody off talking about our constitutional rights.
Hugh, this specific item was not about the constitutional rights. We're talking about this setback. Ms. Hugh, would somebody, Mr. Hugh, you better be careful charging up here like that.
I came to the microphone, John. I
didn't call you up here.
You're going to call me to the microphone?
Yeah, you stand up. You walking up here pretty aggressively. Do you have something to say else? One last thing to say, Mr. Harris.
Yes. One last thing to say is, yes, it is about constitutional rights, because ownership of land is in the Constitution, and the government cannot take property without paying for it. That's all.
All right. Well, okay, let's close the public hearing. Okay. We've had enough. Councilman, Mr. Mangus.
All right. First of all,
hold on one second.
Ma'am, to address your concern, I know we're not supposed to directly speak to the public, but you said some things that weren't true. I am a 32-year public educator, and you said that we don't teach civics anymore. We do, ma'am.
Excuse me.
Ma'am, you had your time. Listen. 32-year public educator in the state of Louisiana. We teach civics. We teach 1 year of civics. 42 other states only teach a semester. We teach that. I have always taught that. In October, we have the Constitution. It's Constitution Day. So, very much. And another thing is, no one is taking land. It's a setback, and nobody up here has already voted for it to happen. So we don't like when you threaten us. So I will tell you that they cannot take your land. It would be a setback, and if the state decided to build, then they would have to pay you. And also we have the Fifth Amendment. You cited the Declaration of Independence, and I love the Declaration of Independence. The Declaration of Independence is not a law. I think any person can tell us here it is a great piece of work, not a law. Now, I'm talking the Fifth, the articles, the Bill of Rights are the first 10 amendments to the Constitution, and if you know the Fifth Amendment, there's eminent domain. So, ma'am, it's wonderful you're a sovereign citizen, but don't come up and teach this August.
All right,
don't
John,
come up here and teach this August
good.
body what the Constitution is.
John, that's enough. That's enough. Is there a motion to? Excuse me one second, ma'am. Is there a motion to adopt this ordinance? Ms. Sandifer?
Can I speak?
Yes.
Can I speak? No, there's not a motion to adopt.
There's no motion to adopt this ordinance?
No.
All right. Well,
I do want to say something. Can I say something?
Sure.
We've already been at work amending it. We do hear you. This has been in the works for a very long time. It's been in the ordinance committee, it's been in the master plan committee, and it's finally come up for adoption tonight. I want you to know we want to hear from you. We want to have the discussion with you. What you say matters. You are our people. We are here to protect your health, welfare, and safety. That is our job. Now, it has been amended, and I'm very welcoming. I've had a conversation with some of you before the meeting tonight. I'm very welcoming of your input. I'm very thankful for your input. It's already been amended by another councilman a different way. And so I just need you to know, talk to us. We want to hear from you. We're here for you. And I am going to pull it back, and I do want it to go back to the ordinance committee and possibly back to the master plan committee. We have talked to DOTD. We have talked to traffic engineers. We have talked to DPW. I guess we need to hear from you now. So,
if there's no motion, we're going to pull it and move on with item 17. Adopt a resolution to authorize a waiver to subdivide in a named subdivision Durango Estates for Marie Hidgen, located at 36052 Renager Road. Mr. Lonnie Watts.
Yes. Ms. Hidgen called me a couple weeks back. She's an elderly lady, and she's trying to get her affairs in order. She lives in a house in the front, and her son, already with a second address, lives in the back. And she just wants to be able to divide this.
Hey, well, hold on one second. Can y'all hold it down just a little bit? It's kind of hard to hear up here. Go ahead.
She wants to divide the property, give the back to her son and the front to her daughter. She's just trying to get her affairs in order. That's basically what it is. And this subdivision here is a unique one. This was 1974. Part of the land's on the south side of Springfield Road. Part of the land's is separated with 2 or 3 different roads off of a state highway, this, that, and other. So it's not really a subdivision. It's a rural area, and that back then they sold Crown sold land in 30, 40 acres of tract. People subdivided, and they had to name it a subdivision at the time. So this is basically what it is, and she's just asking this to be done where she can get her affairs in order where it wouldn't end up in court.
Is that a motion?
Yeah.
To adopt a resolution to authorize a waiver in the name subdivision? Yeah, that was something we passed, I think, years. It was hoping that it would be taken on an individual basis.
And it's 2.8 acres, so it's not a small section.
Is there a second for that? Second by Mr. Mangus. Is there any more discussion?
Yeah, I have a discussion. But what your ordinance you're working on, Mr. Goff, it was before 1980, right?
That's correct.
And this is before 1980?
Oh, that's correct, ain't it? Caroline, was it 1974?
Yes, what you told me. So if his ordinance was in effect, it wouldn't even...
Right, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Irving didn't, I know Mr. Fournier talked about if we enacted that was not a bad piece of legislation, right? The name subdivision before 1980.
That sounds like a subdivision, and I haven't looked at this, but that sounds like a subdivision that was actually created before the Livingston Parish had a real development code.
Yes.
And so, to me, this is just a subdivision of a piece of land that creates apparently no new street and a smaller number of lots. And to me, it would actually fall into a provision in the development code that allows that to happen.
All right, we had a motion, I believe, by Lonnie Watts, second by John Mangus. Any more discussion? Let's call for the vote, Ms. Sandy.
Mr. Mangus?
Yes.
Mr. Watts?
Yes.
Mr. Goff?
Yes.
Mr. Shavers? No. Mr. Coops?
I'm going to say yes, but I would like to give a little disclaimer on that. I'm saying yes because this has already been, Mr. Goff, has this already passed through the ordinance committee, or has it not yet?
This is he's asked for a waiver for a piece of property. This is not the.
But your name subdivision before 1980 has already been through the ordinance committee.
It is.
I thought it was going to. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. It'll be on. We'll introduce it at the next meeting.
Yeah. Okay. I'll vote yes because that's already been facilitated through the ordinance.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Taylor?
Yes.
Mr. Erdy?
Yes.
Mr. Wascom?
Yes.
Ms. Sandifer?
Yes.
All right, item 18, I believe that motion carried, correct?
Yes.
8-1. Item 18, adopt a resolution to authorize a waiver to subdivide a named subdivision, Cane Market Farms. This is in Mr. Billy Taylor's district.
This is the exact same thing that Mr. Lonnie went through. It's subdividing it. The grandmother has already passed. She left it to the people that are inherited. They want to subdivide it. It's 2.25 acres. It's at a dead-end street. There's nothing else that can go past it. They're just splitting it in two pieces.
You're good with it?
I'm good with it.
Is that a motion?
How old is this?
It is, I think it was, grandmother lived on it for 40-something years. So it's old.
Motion by Mr. Taylor?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Mr. Goff? All right. Mr. Dean, you had a question?
Yes, that's a waiver just to subdivide in a named subdivision?
It's not even a subdivision. It is the same exact thing where it was a tract of land of family and they divided it. Now, it's not it's actually just a road. It's a gravel road.
But they're just wanting a waiver to subdivide?
Just to divide it.
How many people involved in that family? About
two.
Are they asking for more addresses or anything like that, or?
Not at this point. They're just dividing it into two pieces of land.
All right. We had a motion and a second. Any more discussion? Ms. Sandy, you want to call? Julie, help us out here. Okay, just call for the vote, Ms. Sandy.
Mr. Mangus?
Yes.
Mr. Watts?
Yes.
Mr. Goff?
Yes.
Mr. Shavers?
No.
Mr. Coates?
Yes.
Mr. Taylor?
Yes.
Mr. Erdy?
Yes.
Mr. Wascom?
Yes.
Ms. Sandifer?
Yes.
All right. Item 19, adopt a resolution to grant a waiver for Section 125, 138 requirements and procedures for recreational vehicles. This is in Mr. John Mangus's district. Mr. Mangus.
Yeah, this is Mr. Darrell Skipper, right? Is Mr. Darrell, are you here? Yes, sir.
Wait, you skipped
Did we skip one?
No? Was it 19?
18.
That was Billy Taylor. We just did.
Okay, wait, what's wrong? I can't, okay, you're right, I'm sorry.
This is Mr. Skipper. He came to me way back in January. He has can you tell us about your mother?
Yeah, my mother's 92, and she can't live on her own anymore. She needs my help, and she's pretty independent. She wants to live on her own, so I wanted to put the RV in my yard, hook the power up to it where I'm there to watch her, take care of her, make sure she takes her medication and all that kind of stuff.
And Mr. Skipper said that he would willing to do what if it would fit under, we'd have to ask Ms. Delat, but under a hardship, he's willing to do a 6-month. He does not want the RV to stay after his mother has decided to not live there, or God forbid she passes. He does not want to stay. It's not going to stay as rental property.
No, I'll get rid of everything.
There's not going to be a motor home that's going to take its mobile home that's going to take its place. This is lack of a better term, a one-off, just for his mother.
Right, I have a sewer deal here.
And yes, he's got the sewer already. So yes, that's a motion.
Motion by Mr. Mangus to authorize the waiver for this. Is there a second by this council? Second by Mr. Lonnie Watts. All right. Any more discussion from the council on this? None being, Ms.
Quick question. Is
Mr.
this
Goff.
in a neighborhood?
No.
It's Alicia Drive. If it is a named subdivision, it's back, what?
It's another one of them deals. It's section
60
acres of land, 60 acre land was bought.
I just see his whole development.
Divided, yeah.
He's at the very end. Originally, South Haven was supposed to connect, and they decided not to connect to it for whatever reason. So the neighbors have no problem with it.
All right. Mr. Coates had a question?
All right, I have a question. The question is, did you say that you're planning to put a time limit on it, or at the time that something happens, they would remove the trailer?
Yes.
Okay, so
6 months.
6 months. If the mother passes, God forbid, before the 6 month, Mr. Skipper, you would.
Correct. Everything's gone.
I do know that we have some ordinances in place and not to allow people living in campers because they're not wind-to zone rated.
Yeah.
You can
know,
drive
and-
2 miles any direction in this parish, and you're going to see a camper with somebody living in it that hadn't come here and asked permission.
Right.
This is just, I love my mother, I want to take care of her, I don't want to put her in a home. Oh, it's my property. I'm not bothering anybody, I'm at the end of the road.
Yeah, he's on a dead end.
Yeah, everything will go once she passes and goes to the Lord. I'll get rid of everything.
Okay. I guess another question would be, how would we know when that occurs?
I'll check. I'll make a note, and
Could we
I've
amend
also
that?
talked to Ms. Delat's office, and yeah, we can
Well, I
check.
mean, I'm gonna have to do this, what, every 6 months?
Yes, sir.
So then you'll know.
All right, any more questions, council members? All right, Ms. Sandy, you want to call for the vote?
Mr. Mangus?
Yes.
Mr. Watts?
Yes.
Mr. Goff?
Yes.
Mr. Shavers?
No.
Mr. Coates?
No.
Mr. Taylor?
Yes.
Mr. Erdy?
Yes.
Mr. Wascom?
Yes.
Ms. Sandifer?
No.
All right, congratulations, you got your waiver.
Thank you.
All right. Item 20, adopt a resolution to name an unnamed road Redemption Road located off Highway
A copy. That's
442,
Thank you.
Holden, Louisiana. This is in Mr. Joe Erdy's district.
Yes. All they want is redemption. So, there you go.
Don't we all?
A motion to name it Redemption Road.
That's
second by
correct.
Mr. Shavers. Any discussion? All in favor say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed? That motion carried. Unanimous. Adopt a resolution to name an unnamed road Wagon Wheel Drive in Mr. Joe Erdy's district. Same thing, Mr. Joe?
Well, sort of, it's like the Wild West, they want to be wagon wheel drive, so it's just a new lane has gone in and ready to go. And
Motion by Mr. Joe
You
Erdy,
need a
second by
name
Mr.
for it.
Ron Shavers. Any discussion? All in favor say yes.
Yes.
Yes. Any opposed? That motion carries unanimous, I believe. Discussion of changing council meeting dates. Mr. Joe Erdy.
What I'm asking for there is, I would like to see if we can agree to have a special meeting for next Wednesday night to discuss issues such as council and the dates that the council does meet, or getting our own council, but we need to really have a discussion, a special meeting rather, is what I'm saying, for 6 o'clock next Wednesday night.
I'm sorry, Mr. Erdy, when you said council, you mean COUNSEL, right?
Well, if that's what you want to say.
Yeah, so it's changing the council meetings dates, but it's for COUNSEL.
Yes, and there is somebody who is anxious or ready to, pursue being our council. And what I'm saying is that I think in the betterment of Livingston Parish that all of us up here got elected for, that I think it's only fair that we hear this man out and you be the judge of everything he has to say, and let's look at what he has to offer, and there's no harm done in doing that by having this special meeting.
Would you want to wait and just put this on the next council meeting, and so we have to call a special meeting? Or do you want to we have to have a special meeting for this?
Well, we have to have a special meeting because right now he's being retained on Thursday nights by another parish. So it falls,
Do we need him here to talk about this?
I think everybody pretty much wants to talk to this man that I've, just general opinion, and I think it's only fair that y'all get to see him and meet him and ask the questions you want to ask him. I think that's the right way to do it.
Okay.
And it can't make us go backwards, but it can make us go forward in this parish as we were elected to do. And I'm just trying to set up the meeting next Wednesday night because that's an availability for him. He's a busy man, but he's willing to take this on and let him present himself to all of us. And, and let us decide.
What's the thoughts on the council for a meeting next Wednesday, which is July the 3rd, day before Independence Day?
I can do it.
Ms. Sandifer's good?
I'm good with it.
Mr. Coates?
Yes, sir.
1, 2, 3, 4?
Taylor?
What time?
Jack, I don't know.
6 o'clock next Wednesday.
Wednesday's God's day, man.
I'm gonna have a hard time myself.
Wednesday's God's day.
July
And
3rd. I don't know.
I'm an avid churchgoer, and I go to church on Wednesday, Sunday. And so, I mean, I'll make an exception to do this, but going forward, if we're going to do things on Wednesday, you can expect me not to be here.
All right, so that's 5 council members. According to our home rule charter, I believe, or ordinance, a special meeting can be called either by the chairman or the majority of the council. So there's 5 council members to my right that said they do want to have a meeting Wednesday. I don't know that I can make it, so Ms. Sanford, one of y'all going to have to maybe chair the meeting.
What time, Joe, would you want?
6 o'clock.
Could we move it back a week as being a holiday before?
Move it back to the following Wednesday, the Wednesday after that?
Yeah, that way,
Or maybe
if
not a
people's going
Wednesday.
out of town.
That next Wednesday is a settlement conference. I don't know how long that's going to go, but
What?
litigation.
Does it have to be Wednesday?
I think he could do it Monday. He said that would be a second choice, so it would be 6 o'clock Monday. How does that fit with
On
y'all?
the 1st?
Yeah. Is any?
That's
I
fine for
believe
me.
he said he could squeeze that in. All right, I'd like to hear y'all's opinion on that.
Is there anything on the calendar, Sandy, for the room?
No, it's just, we're going to send an email out notifying everybody about the July 4th holiday.
All right, let's take a head count for July 4th. Raise your hand if you don't mind. So
July 1st.
July 1st, which would be a Monday.
This coming Monday.
You got 1, 2, 3, 4.
I could probably do that.
All right, 5, 6. We have the majority of the council. So we'll set a council meeting, special meeting for July the 1st. Ms. Sandy, would you please?
Can I ask a favor?
Sure.
I have to put in the agenda the special meeting reason that
That's right.
this
Would
is
you
being
please get
held.
with Mr. Joe, I'm assuming, and
Is
tell
it
her
because
exactly.
you want to change the dates of the,
And
because
possibly
we
see,
have an ordinance that would have to be amended to change the dates from the second and the fourth Thursday of each
well,
month.
it's not like we're going to change it that day. It's that we're going to listen to the man talk that day, and let's see if we need to, if we're satisfied with what we hear.
This is for discussion.
For
purposes.
discussion.
Discussion of new
And if everybody,
council
Dates and
legal.
representation.
new council and changing of the dates, but this man is only asking to speak, to present himself, then we can move forward with the rest.
To no action.
So you're not looking to take any kind of votes on that special meeting?
Well, we would have to take some kind of vote on whether we accept the man sooner or
Okay,
later.
that's what they're asking you, I
Yeah,
believe.
okay,
I
not,
don't think
yeah.
it's
So-
Can I have a question?
Sure, Mr. Goff.
Okay, first and foremost, I don't think we've even voted. Y'all asked if I could be available for the 1st, and I raised my hand and said, yes, I can be available for the 1st. Are we going to vote to have a special meeting or not? Number one. Number two, if we're going to listen to this man, I just simply ask, have y'all reached out to the district attorney and asked get his opinion on the charter, and can we do this? And if you have, great. I don't need a discussion, but I would like to also request for him to be here at that meeting as well to discuss it, and then for us to get some kind of opinion from somebody. I'm not going down the tourism board road again. I'm just not. I'm just not. So I don't believe that we can do what y'all are trying to do. Never met the man, don't know. So when you say the majority, well, I don't know him. I don't even know who you're trying to do. So we're not changing our council meeting dates. We're just having a special meeting. So first, I'm okay with having a special meeting. I'll listen to anybody say anything, but I don't want to waste my time, not to mention the rest of people's time. So who said that we can to hire any attorney to do that? Has anybody checked into that?
I'll say this. Going back to the meeting, there should be no action taken at the special meeting. There should be no reason to take a vote. What this process is for this gentleman to come up and allow us to ask questions. If by the end of the meeting you feel satisfied that he could represent us as our attorney, then we'll go to the next council meeting and start that process. Going to Scott Perilou, I've tried to call him several times, and he's not returned any of my phone calls because I'm with you. I think it would mean a lot if he could come, but he has not returned any of my phone calls, and I've been calling for over 2 months.
So there's more than one attorney, but I think we need to make sure somebody on this council needs to give me some kind of information to state that we can even hire this guy. I don't want to talk to this guy. I don't want to waste his time.
Okay. Grab a home rule charter.
If we can't hire, if hiring.
Sure.
Why are we going to sit down and listen to this man? It's like, oh man, he's a great attorney. He does a good job.
Well, the reason
he's got a lot of history, but we can't hire him.
The reason for that is, like I said, we've all been put up here to try to make this parish go forward. And all we can do is gain by it, not lose by it, by listening to this man. We can only gain and not lose a drop. So I think we owe it to the people out here and everybody to listen to this man.
Okay,
give
so
ourselves a chance.
You brought up the thing, and the item I'm assuming that you're referring to, because Caroline has it highlighted, she gave it to me, is 4-02B, says, no special legal counsel shall be retained by the parish government except by written contract for a specific purpose approved by the favorable vote of the majority of the authorized membership of the council. Such authorization shall specify the compensation, if any, to be paid for such services. So what's the specific, what are we hiring this, what do we want to hire this guy for? Like, what's the specific, because our attorney is the district attorney, and if you continue to read this charter, you'll see that. And until we change it in the charter,
I think that might be, I'm not speaking for Joe, but I think that might be the, Mr. Erdy, that they plan would be to eventually put it on the, to the people and change the charter.
Yeah, after Monday, if he meets our approval, yes, we go from there.
All right, well,
there's no harm done.
Did we have 5 council members? I believe we had 5, the majority 5 wanted to meet.
Yep.
If you want to have a meeting, if you would, I'm just going to take a quick poll. Raise your hand if you want to meet Monday. 1, 2, 3, 4,
sure.
5, 6. We have 6 council members that want to have a special meeting Monday, July 1st. So, Ms. Sandy, if you'll get that out and work with Joe, and I'm assuming it's going to be for an informational purpose only, so they won't be taking any action that day, I guess. If you're going to take action, we need to put it specifically what we're going to do. All right, let's move on. Let's see, item 23, report discussion of solar panels located on George White Road. Mr. Joe Erdy again. You got something on solar panels?
Well, I thought you were investigating it, but I don't know where you left off at. So did you have anything you wanted to say, or you want me just to chime in on this one? Okay.
No, I don't know. What do you?
Well, remember we were discussing, for y'all, all y'all down there don't know, the solar panels been down there forever, and I got plenty of information that I went over many times. The highlight of this is that the other day the reflection of the sun set the grass on fire in the solar field. And the Springfield Fire Department had to go out there and put it out. By the time I got down there, it was out. And the grass is... I'm
not to cut you off, but is that because the grass is not being maintained?
The grass is not being maintained at all. It's taller than everybody in this room, just about everywhere.
So is that something that we need to address with compliance, that they start doing whatever compliance needs to do to find this person, whatever it is? That owns the solar
I know
panels?
who the people are. I got names and numbers, so that I got that. The strangest thing is I go that way like all the time, and the grass is turning kind of yellowish green. It's a huge field. You know, it's not. There's bigger fields, but it's turning brownish yellow green. Not everything in there is dying. It's plenty acres of stuff that's dying, so it's an issue. However we want to address it.
Mr. Erdy, don't they have to maintain their property? So, I mean, as to Councilman Taylor's point, that's a compliance. They need to maintain that property.
You want to say something? I mean, look, do we have any kind of direction, or is there a motion? Ms. Sandifer, you want to say something? Ms. Sandifer, you had a question?
No, I'm fine.
Mr. Taylor, do you have a question?
No, I got...
Well, they did tell me, by the way, they were going to maintain saying it, but they didn't.
Okay.
Because I spoke to them.
I do want to say something.
Ms.
May I
Sanford.
speak? I think
Sure.
the solar panels pull a high level of heat down, and I think, are you trying to say that's what started the fire? Because that did pop up on my radar map in the studies, and...
That's what they attributed it to.
They being the Springfield Fire Department?
Yes. Yes. And that's a new one to me. It's been
Maybe
there.
maybe we could just ask the administration to reach out to compliance and go investigate it. I mean, I don't know what else. I'm sorry, Randy, but I don't know what else to tell you to do. But
Randy, you got to put the fire out next time?
I mean, Joe, if there's any, do you have any solution? I'm willing to listen to, but I hate to. I'd like to keep going with the
Yeah, I
council
want to
meeting.
remove it.
Remove what?
The whole field.
Were you just trying...
Put that in the form of a motion.
Were you were just wanting it on public record.
That's right.
Yeah, okay.
I like
get it.
I like it to be gone.
Well, if there is no further action, I guess no other comments, we'll just move on with the next item on the agenda. Board appointments, item A, appoint a member of the Master Plan Review Committee, Mr. Lonnie Watts. Did you have?
Yes, I'd like to recommend Zach Thomason. He was here, but I guess he had to leave a little early. But I'd like to appoint him on that
Motion
board.
by Mr. Watts to appoint Zach
Yes, Thomason.
Thomason, second by Mr. Mangus. Any discussion? None being, Ms. Sandy, you want to call for the vote?
Mr. Mangus.
Yay.
Mr. Watts.
Yes.
Mr. Goff.
Yes.
Mr. Shavers.
Yes.
Mr. Coates. Yes. Mr. Taylor.
Yes.
Mr. Erdy.
Yes.
Mr. Wascom.
Yes.
Ms. Sandifer.
Yes.
Item B, appoint a member of the Personnel Board. There's 3 people on that board. Mr. Durbin had just passed away. We appointed Mr. Robert Bajwal. Another person on that board is Mr. Kerry Carlin, and he sent me an email. He called me. He is moving out of the parish. He said, John, thank you for y'all letting me serve on that board, but he said, I'm leaving the parish. So I reached out to the Livingston Parish former police chief, Mr. Jeff Wesley. You might know Jeff Wesley. He's a great guy. He serves on the parish council. He's dealt with personnel issues for years. I think he'd be a great one. I'd like to recommend that we get a motion to appoint Mr. Jeff Wesley to Mr. Lonnie Watts. Is there a second by Mr. Ricky Goff? Any discussion? Call for the vote, Ms. Sandy.
Mr. Mangus.
Yes.
Mr. Watts.
Yes.
Mr. Goff.
Yes.
Mr. Shavers.
Yes.
Mr. Coates.
Yes.
Mr. Taylor.
Yes.
Mr. Erdy.
Yes.
Mr. Wascom.
Yes.
Ms. Sandifer.
Yes.
Item 24C, ratify the Town of Albany's appointment to Fire Protection District Number 1. I believe they have James Chisholm would be the Town of Albany's appointment to that board. So they make the appointment, but we would ratify it. Is there a motion to appoint Mr. Chisholm or to accept to ratify that appointment by the Town of Albany?
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Mr. Goff. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Joe Erdy. And also, on that same board, there's an appointment to, the board makes an appointment to that, not the council, but I think the fire board makes, is that right? Makes an appointment to that board, and they want to appoint Mr. Rodney Russell. So I'm not sure what district he lives in or what it is, but can we put those two together and let Mr. Goff's and Mr. Arty's motion be for both of those?
I thought Rodney Russell was already on the board.
It's reappointing.
It's for reappointment.
Okay, all right, okay.
Is that is good? All right. Call for the vote, Ms. Sandy.
Mr. Mangus.
Yes.
Mr. Watts.
Yes.
Mr. Goff.
Yes.
Mr. Shavers.
Yes.
Mr. Coates. Yes. Mr. Taylor.
Yes.
Mr. Erdy.
Yes.
Mr. Wascom.
Yes.
Ms. Sandifer.
Yes.
All right. Committee reports, Finance Committee. Mr. Mangus, you have any?
Yeah, really quickly, is Mr. Mickey McMorris still here? Yes. Okay, yes. If you could come up and tell, we had a report on the auditor.
Earlier at the Finance Committee meeting, Mr. Tommy Lejeune with Falk and Winkler presented that the audit could not be completed by June 30 as required. So we requested an extension actually until August the 15th, I believe, but he said he should be able to complete that audit by the third week of July. So there will be a delay just because the books were, I mean, it's change of administration and the the books needed to be caught up, and there was additional work, and
just for the record, he stated that there was nothing that the current administration did that caused the delay. It was previous administration just transferring information. Also, it doesn't cost us the parish citizens any more money. They're not asking for more money to continue the work. So.
Right.
All right. Was it nothing else from the Finance Committee? The Ordinance Committee, Mr. Coates?
Okay, ordinance committee's been very busy. Please just keep sending your ordinances. We'll try to work them out there, and if not, we'll send them back and work them out some more. So we do have an issue. Mr. Erdy was wanting to be removed from the ordinance committee, so he's already on the Finance Committee and doing a lot of work. So if you don't mind doing that for us, Mr. Chairman. And also, Mr. Taylor asked to be appointed onto the board, onto the ordinance committee, if that be your purview to do that.
Mr. Erdy, is that your wishes to get off the ordinance committee?
Yes, I think it's a smart thing to do, a good thing to do for the council in itself. So let's let him have the position there.
All right. Hereby declare Mr. Joe Erdy is no longer on the ordinance committee. Mr. Billy Taylor is.
I want to thank Mr. Taylor for his selfless service and getting on that committee.
Next item would be the district attorney reports, but we don't have the attorney here tonight, but we do have addendums. Let's see, A2, 1, 2, and 3, I believe. And Mr. Delat had put this together, I believe, and so I think they're going to call for executive session. It's 8 o'clock, so I know we have some council members that need to get out here in about 30 minutes, so let's run back to executive session if that pleases the council. And give us your name and address. You're going to speak.
Yeah, Marty Maley. Mr. Irving and I are the lawyers that help you out. It's a P.O. Box 3154, Baton Rouge, and my office is on Bluebonnet.
Sure. This is to discuss litigation for pending litigation.
It is to discuss pending litigation, and we need to go into executive committee. If you look on the back of your agenda, you'll see the notice of the addendum to the agenda, and it has 3 points there that are going to be the scope of what we'll be discussing. We need to invite, if we can, Mr. Wascom, invite Mr. Delat, Ms. Delat, and Ms. Morgan Sanchez to attend the executive session to provide details and any supplemental
administrative information.
Yes,
sure. Okay, to go to executive session. Yes. Is there a motion to go to executive session?
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Mr. Goff. Is there a second? Well,
Yes, I'll second.
oh, we have a second by Mr. John Mangus. Okay. That's to go to executive session and to listen to what the attorneys have to say about pending litigation against the parish. So,
And I promise we'll keep it shorter than the waiver discussion.
okay. Okay. All right.
Promise.
Well, that really limits us. Okay. So let's call for the vote to go to executive session.
Mr. Mangus?
Yes.
Mr. Watts? Mr. Goff?
Yes.
Mr. Shavers?
Yes.
Mr. Coates?
Yes.
Mr. Taylor?
Yes.
Mr. Erdy?
Yes.
Mr. Wascom?
Yes.
Mayor DeFrew.
All right. We're going into exec session.